But as you hear the testimony, I think you'll figure it out, just like the people in Pennsylvania and later in the week the people in Michigan. It centers around the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots. We've been warned for 20 years that going to major mail-in ballots as a way of doing our elections will be fraught with tremendous fraud. They're very dangerous. It's almost impossible for even semi-crooked politicians to resist the temptation to use it for ballot stuffing. We were warned by President Jimmy Carter. We were warned by former Secretary of State Jim Baker in a report, very, very consequential report. They said we should never do it. And if we do it, it should be extremely limited to the real absentee situations like we have done in the past. We were warned by Justice Souter in the Supreme Court, warned by many, many experts, Republican and Democrat. Democrats used to be against mail-in ballots, like they were against everything else until President Trump was for it, which gives you a sense they're not thinking about the country. They're thinking about competitive advantage, getting their power back, serving their greed and for power and money. So when they saw the mail-in ballot situation, they said, wow, we could change an election in the past, like they did in Chicago in 1960 with Governor Mayor Daley, like they did in Florida or tried to do just last year in Florida by turning the votes in Broward and Palm Beach County, holding them back for 2 weeks and seeing if they could get enough absentee ballots made up. They couldn't get there. They couldn't get there because there were only like 300,000 or 400,000 absentee ballots. You can't expand it to 1 million. But when you have 2.5 million mail-in ballots, you can expand it to 3 million or 3.2 million. Or you can count it 4 or 5 times in the machine. There's plenty of room for cheating, which is why they slowed it down. So you're in it with other states. It's not just Arizona that has been conned, and the people of Arizona taken advantage of, and their right to vote taken away from them. It's the people of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Georgia, and Arizona that we know of. And if your right to vote has been taken away, so is mine. We have an illegitimate election. We have demonstrably wrong numbers in those states. In your state, a lot of the fraud had to do with the mail-in system, as it did in other places. Your state's a little bit different than Michigan and Pennsylvania. Your state, it wasn't full and complete shutout of all Republicans in seeing mail-in ballots and ballots that were in dispute. But it was significant. A significant number of these witnesses were shut out when the important determination was being made, is this ballot valid or isn't it? When you make that determination, as a matter of law in almost every state in the country, and just as a matter of due process and fairness, we'd all agree both parties should get to see it. That's the last time you get to check the validity of the ballot. That's why mail-in ballots are different. We can go back to the machines and we can study the machines. Maybe we can pick up the fraud and the evidence of it, because there's traces left in it. But once the envelope is separated from the ballot, gone forever, you will never know how to connect the fraud, which is why President Carter and Jimmy Baker said it's a field day for fraud. The way you accomplish the fraud is you don't have an independent party or a Republican. If you're going to cheat the Republicans, you don't have him in the room so he can object to it and point it out. Look, this is the same handwriting on 12 ballots. Oh, they didn't fill out the envelope. They just filled out the ballot. Or this seems like it was done by a machine. Those are the things you can object to. So in probably at least 100,000 situations in Maricopa County alone and Pima, you did not have the opportunity to do that. Those votes should be declared null and void. You also, in addition, however, had your own variations, as the other states did. So the key fraud is the mail-in ballot. That was the backup in case they fell too far behind. That's why they cut off the vote at midnight, 1 o'clock, when President Trump was getting too far ahead, particularly in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and also in
you were watching
Pennsylvania.
and listening to
So they cut off the vote.
at the beginning of the
He
testimony.
was getting
in
up to
Arizona
800,000 in
This is Rudy
Pennsylvania,
Giuliani, the president's
300,000 in
lawyer.
Michigan. He was even further ahead in Wisconsin. They cut off the vote. They turned things off. They chased everybody out. And then it's not your concern, except for the fact that you got to look at this somewhat in total. They started bringing in false ballots. We have 3 witnesses to 100,000 of those ballots being brought in at 4:30 in the morning in Detroit with no Republicans around that they knew of. Luckily, we had 2 that stayed behind and a Dominion employee who was willing to be honest. Not all of them are honest. So the point of that is you're part of this fraud. You also had numerous situations of your workers, your citizens, observing the poll officials helping people vote to the point of telling them who to vote for. Clear fraud. You have situations of poll workers being observed changing votes, taking ambiguous votes and making sure they were cast for Biden. And you have situations of stuffing the ballot box. And we will try to quantify those. Those are harder to quantify. But the ones involving the exclusion of observers are quantifiable, and that's 100,000. So let me spend just 1 minute, and then we'll get our witnesses out, on Dominion. Dominion is a foreign company. It's a Canadian company. It has an office in America, but it's a foreign company. Question number 1. I have to believe the people of Arizona had no idea a foreign company was counting their vote. I guarantee you they didn't, because the people in New York did. I did. I find that outrageous. We can't get an American company that we have complete jurisdiction over to count our votes. Now, did we pick this company here in Arizona without any due diligence? It's not just a foreign company. It's a foreign company that's been in a lot of trouble. In Texas, it was excluded after 2 years of study for being exceedingly incompetent. It screwed up elections in the past. It's well known for having the most porous system of all the companies, meaning it's the easiest one to penetrate. They do little or nothing to protect against hacking. They even explain to some extent in their manual how to get into them, how to manipulate them. And then they have a history going back to the Smartmatic company that actually was formed for the purpose of fixing elections. I don't know who makes the choice in your state of who should be counting your votes, but I know that person either is exceedingly naive or much worse. If this wasn't known to the person making the choice, then you got to change your whole system. Finally, you don't have to wait to change your system. We don't have to endure a phony election and the biggest voter fraud in our history and end up with a tainted election and go down in history as a country that didn't have the courage to deal with it, go down as the first group of Americans that didn't have the courage to stand up when their freedoms were being taken away. We'd be the first. When I see some of these leaders cower at the idea of doing what the Constitution gives them the power to do, I become very discouraged about, can we really stand up to this invasion on what's been really an invasion on our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, and now our right to a fair and honest count. That's all we want. I mean, the one thing you will come away with here is the vote as it presently exists is false. It's fraudulent. If they certify it, they are certifying a false statement to the United States of America. Gosh, when I was a prosecutor, that was a federal crime. False statement to the United States in probably the most important matter we have, the selection of our commander-in-chief. I mean, I can tell you where the false statements and where the numbers end up, but that doesn't even matter. It is clear that the numbers are false. It's clear that you have included ballots that weren't properly inspected. It's clear that you're including ballots that were voted by other people. It's clear that you're using machines that have been shown to be totally manipulated in other places, and you won't give us the opportunity to examine those machines. I think anybody who puts their name on that is getting very close to committing a crime. And I think anyone who stands by and lets it happen, maybe they're not committing a crime, but they've lost the sense of what it means that we have to fight to protect our values and our rights. Because there are always people, both externally and internally, who want to take them away.
We can go ahead and bring it down. It's the only thing I think I disagree with Mayor Giuliani. It's absolutely a crime, and if you stand by and look at it, you're an accessory to that crime. These are crimes. They can be prosecuted as crimes. They're trying to steal. They're trying to thwart the will of the American people. A beautiful opening by Mayor Giuliani. There's going to be now witnesses. There's going to be, I think they'll walk through the math, which we want to hear. Real America's Voice has got Ben Berquam there. GTV has got a team there. They're picking up the stream. Real America's Voice is picking up the stream. My strongest recommendation to our audience today, if you missed Gettysburg and you missed the commission meeting in Wisconsin, if you want to see democracy at work, tune in. It'll be the best use of your time on what's a rainy afternoon in the back east to see what's going on in the desert out in Arizona, where Americans are standing up for their rights. And this is what's most impressive. This has all come about because of you. This is why you're such a powerful and important audience and why they fear you. It is your calls, your emails, your pressure, your relentless pressure that has actually gotten this, that empowered those delegates that are up there risking leadership being angry at them. Same thing in Pennsylvania. It was Don Kiefer and Colonel Mastriano, right, and Sergeant Rothman, the delegate. They were all prepared to come forward. Everybody that came to that and had that hearing in Gettysburg, all of those were because you had their back. And they know you have their back, because this is the Ben Berquam got it 3 weeks ago, I think it was, with a deplorable, I think she was of Hispanic descent, interview outside the Maricopa County voting center, elections headquarters. And he interviewed her. She's sitting there all maggot up, right, get the red hat on and all that. And she said, "This is beyond Trump. I'm not out here for Trump. I'm out here for the country." Yes, President Trump won re-election. He won a massive landslide in Arizona, and that's obvious, right? But it's not the fact that I'm here just as a Trump supporter. I'm here as an American.
Well, the other thing is that we have to look at, this is almost like a trial, right? And the opposite side does not want to share all the evidence in this trial. They want to convict somebody in this election without allowing that person to present all the evidence in his defense.
Look, here's the thing. The reason Biden's numbers are soft, and they're going to get softer, and he's getting chopped up, you can't give happy talk in a car dealership in Wilmington, right, to bring the country together. There's only one way to bring this country together right now. Get everything on the table, and let's have a fair account of legal votes. If that happens and Joe Biden wins, hey, will we be disappointed? We'll be angry, but we'll be the loyal opposition. But if that doesn't happen, it's going to be something else, okay? And so right now you see where this is headed. We know it's headed for a Trump victory. Now, we've got some choppy water to go through, and the establishment's got to help pull together here.